novelists are the people I become friends with because they're the only people I can go to dinner with who won't talk about movies or real estate. They will talk about things I care about. So they become my friends. So, and many of them will stay my friends, and a lot of them won't, because if their books come along and if they write a book that I don't like, I used to review it, but I reviewed all the time, 2 or 3 times a week. Now, if a friend writes a book that I don't like, I don't review it. They know that. And some of them resent it. But on the other hand, I became friends, or more what Toni Morrison says, a friend of the mind. There are a whole bunch of writers out there that I've reviewed most of their books over the years. I've never met them, or I met them once or twice at a cocktail party here or there. But I will always review their books because they were a friend of my mind right at the beginning. And I'm interested in how they work it out. And I don't, and one book to the next, I'm not in the business of giving a grade. I'm not a grammar school teacher. I don't say this one's a B, that was a D+, and this one's an A at last. I'm interested in the development, the evolution of this writer. I will always be interested in this writer. This is the writer I care about. So I will review those people no matter how intimate I am with them, and I think it's a mistake, just as Christopher suggested. It's a mistake not to have me review these. Who knows them better? I've read every word. I pride myself when I review a writer to have read all of the books and to try to see what that writer has been up to all of the time. And I mess up because I'm not as smart as I review writers like Richard Powers, and I'm not as smart as Richard Powers, but I do my best. And frankly, I think ethics questions when it comes to book reviews are such small potatoes when it comes to the corruptions of the culture at large. The way metastatic capitalism lies to us, the way everybody lies to us, and a poor book reviewers, there's no money in it to begin with, and therefore you can't have serious ethical questions. There are problems that we'll address, and I'll stop. But the problems we ought to address there are. I consider it unethical for a book reviewer to be showing off at the expense of the author and the expense of the reader. I consider performance art book reviewing a scandal. You've got your responsibilities are elsewhere, and if all you're doing is making a spectacle of yourself so that people will look at you, join the circus. I also consider the people who read out whole kinds of books because they don't like them. If you care about literary fiction, you can't care about mysteries. You can't care about cyberpunk science fiction. You can't care about this or that. These people are unimaginative, narrow, parochial, and we should pay no attention to them. And I think we should also worry about people who bring to book reviewing any kind of ideology. I'm a left-winger. I've always been a left-winger. But if I can't review Nabokov and like it, what's the matter with me? I'm an idiot as well as a left-winger, and I don't feel that is necessary. But there are people who make books submit to a litmus test, and I think that is unethical. But as for, I'll end with, we're going back to the question of friends. Many of mine have lately been dying. And the fact that I could say something nice about them in public while they were still alive makes me think I have a chance to get into heaven, too.
I'm going to answer 2 of Carlin's questions briefly and then go on to say why I don't want to answer any of the others. First of all, I do send back books that I don't like, mainly because I think, why should I ruin the life of an innocent first novelist when there are clearly, to me, people out there who will love this book and should be helped to find this book, which is one of the functions of the book review. Second of all, I also review books by acquaintances and even friends. As Christopher said, I don't feel that it clouds my objectivity. As John said, I feel that I can be an advocate for the book. Years ago, I was assigned a book by one of Sam's predecessors of the book review, and it was someone I knew, a guy I knew. He wasn't a close friend. He was someone I taught with and had been at writers' conferences with. And I asked if that was a conflict of interest, and the editor said, "Have you ever had an affair with the guy?" And I said, not that I remember. And he said, fine, go ahead and write the review. And I did. But the reason that the whole question of ethics kind of bothers me is it seems to me to support a slightly bogus idea about book reviewing, which is, I think, not a friend of book reviewing in general, not a friend of literary culture, which is that the book review is some sort of version of Consumer Reports, or it's, like a peer review panel of the FDA. Those are scientific processes, and the consequences are grievous. That is, if you run the car into the wall and all the crash test dummies come flying off, the car is dangerous. If you give a drug to someone and they all die, etc. But book reviewing is quite a different matter, because matters of opinion, matters of taste, all come in and should come in and don't have no relation finally to whether you know the writer or whether you've written this kind of book or so forth, and they're important. And it seems to me that the primary obligation of the book reviewer is to write interestingly about the book. That's whether you like the book or whether you don't like the book, that should be your idea. I mean, if what's interesting to you, and also I think that if critics thought about that, there would be a different kind of criticism. I mean, that is, if what's interesting to a critic is to set up a book, like a beer can in one's backyard and just shoot at it, then that's sort of interesting. That's interesting to a critic. It doesn't happen to be interesting to me at this point in my life. And I think that the most unethical thing to do is to write about a book boringly. It's no friend to the book, you're being no friend to the writer, and no friend to reading in general, which is what we all should be doing. Thanks.
I agree with just about everything the panelists have said so far. First, though, I want to say I hope that we at the Book Reviewer have rid ourselves of the stigma of the permanent affectation of integrity. We also want to be interesting. What we look